All right, guys, I'm live here on YouTube. Quick little podcast before the big game starts. I don't know how many people. It's a 5:30 game, so I don't know how many people are out there getting ready for the game like I am. But I like to tell stories on the podcast. You guys know that. 1986. I'm 14 years old. Okay, it's the bottom of the 10th inning. Mets are down by 2. They're down by 2, and I think all hope is lost. Hanging on the edge of my seat. Father's there with me. My father being the Yankee fan that he is, breaking my chops, saying they're never going to win, they're never going to win. And me being the resilient Mets fan I am. You guys all know the story of me watching Dave Kingman hit that home run back in 1976 is the start of my fandom. So this is 10 years later. I'm 14. In the living room, down by 2. My dad saying they're never going to do it. The Mets stink. Just watched a great was that the NLCS, I guess you would call it back then, with the Houston Astros. Mike Scott, the Met killer. Braves, unfortunately, they have a Met killer, Schellenbach. We'll get to him later. It's the bottom of the 10th inning. Mets are down by 2. On the edge of my seat the whole game. Gary Carter gets a hit. You guys all know what happened after that. That, as a 14-year-old Mets fan, the euphoria that I felt watching that game, that wasn't even the World Series, mind you. That was a Game 6. Of course, the next day comes the World Series. That game, up until that point in my life, 14-year-old Met fan living in Queens, saw the greatest game I've ever witnessed. Now, like I said, mind you, that game was a result of a flub. We obviously know the flub from Bill Buckner. Now, Bill Buckner goes down in history as one of the best defensive, I think, first baseman. His defensive numbers are way out there. But he's going to be known as Gets by Buckner. Now, Gets by Buckner, my whole life, has always happened to the Mets or the Jets. Those are two teams I root for, and for some reason, those two teams always disappoint me. Those two teams, as in, I could tell you the story about A.J. Dewey in 1982 when he broke my heart, intercepted that ball, ran it back. Miami Dolphins hurt my feelings, destroyed me as a 10-year-old Jet fan. Now it's 1986. Up until that point, the Mets have been not really that good. They've been late 70s. I stuck with them. They were terrible. The Pat Zachary's and the John Stearns and these are the guys I was watching, the Dave Kingmans, the George Fosters. Now it's 1986. You get a young Dwight Gooden. You have all these players. You got Kevin Mitchell, who is a beast at that time. Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez. The list goes on and on. But I'm not going to bore you with all the ins and outs of that 1986 team and why I think they should have won more than one World Series. I guess that year was special. Gets by Buckner. I go crazy, yelling and screaming. I told you. Up until that point, greatest Met moment I've ever witnessed. Up until Jesse Orosco throwing up that glove, getting down on his knees, and portraying to everybody that, you know what? We did it. We won the World Series. The feeling I had in 1986 as a sports fan, we are talking about sports here, and I am talking about great feelings with sports. There's other great feelings. But sports-wise, watching my team. Aiden, give me a drink of water. Sorry. But yes, up until that point, watching Jesse Orosco throw up that glove, watching them storm him on home plate, on the mound. That up until that point was the greatest moment I've ever witnessed as a Mets fan. Thank you, Aiden. And he's the other biggest Met fan I know is my son, Aiden. Now, we're going to fast forward to yesterday. Okay, now yesterday, I'm going to preface this conversation that I'm about to go into as yesterday was the single greatest baseball game I've ever witnessed. Now, I'm telling you that from a Mets perspective, because if you look in the history of baseball, people are like, oh, what about this game? What about that game? That's all relevant to your team. Many great Yankee moments, many great moments in a bunch of teams. But But you know what, though? These are my moments. These are our moments. These are Met fan moments. Now, you got a lot of people out there who are Yankee fans, and they're like, "Oh, look at the Met fans. Oh, they're getting all excited. Look at all the Met fans thinking they're going to do something." Now, I don't know if Yankee fans feel that way this year, but I know I've never portrayed myself as a Yankee hater because, to be honest with you, I enjoy watching the Yankees play. But that being said, it's kind of like, oh, look at the little guys. They're all happy about their team. The Mets have made the playoffs 11 times. I heard that stat this morning, and I guess it makes sense, but 11 times just doesn't seem like that many. So we really don't have that many moments. We have a lot of moments, that are relevant to us. We have the Piazza, we have 69, which I wasn't alive for, 86. Name your favorite Met moment. 2000, getting to the World Series, and the serious disappointment of losing to the Yankees. Possibility, Yankees are playing pretty good over there in the Bronx. That, I don't know. We'll see. Don't want to say it too loud, but anybody I'd like to get revenge in the World Series, it's the Yankees. Not out of a hatred towards the Yankees, not out of a bragging perspective, but as a fan, just wanting revenge on the team that took the soul. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about that word I just said, soul, because that word came up yesterday. Now, I got a reprieve yesterday. I was home early. So I get home. My son's home. He's got, he made sure he cleared his day, so he's got nothing going on. Because we know we got two big Met games that we're going to watch last night. Now, in my eyes, my son Aiden is the biggest Met fan I know, next to me. And I think him being young and him being full of energy and full of love for the team and full of, when he's disappointed when they lose and he's euphoric when they win, and it's just like up and down. And, he recognizes that comes with the territory of being a Met fan. Maybe I'm just a more of a weathered, older Met fan who has been used to the hurt. He's been let down a bunch of times, but he really hasn't seen like the really, really, really bad times of being a Mets fan. We were fortunate enough to go to the game in Citi Field against San Diego Padres. Thank you to a very, very good friend of mine. Got us great, great seats. Being in the building, it's amazing. It's amazing. They're playing a relevant baseball game. San Diego Padres. Great seats, overlooking Citi Field. We're right around the rim, center field. Manny Machado hitting that home run right over our heads. Sealed their fate. That was 2022. There's a couple of guys left over from that team. There's a lot of guys, actually, but this Mets team, as they're currently built right now, is different. Now, I said something in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I compared this Mets team to the 1996 Yankees. Now, I know you guys are going to be like, go compare the Mets to the Yankees, but listen, hear me out, though, for a second. I thought that Yankee team was going to scrap and win and go on the run that they did. It seemed like that Yankee team had a lot of players on their team that no matter what was going on outside of Yankee Stadium, the minute those Yankees walked into that dugout, there was a bunch of scrappy players that were there for one purpose: win a World Series. And it showed. They had each other's backs. They hit when they had to hit. They did what they had to do. They did the little things. That 1996 Yankees team won the World Series that year. This Mets team right here doesn't seem like there's any kind of division in it. When I say that, go back to even 22 with the Lindor and McNeil stuff, the rat and the squirrel, and, Pete Alonso having the world on his shoulders because at that point in time, he was the guy that was looked upon to come through with the big hit. And sometimes Pete came through with the big hit, and sometimes he did it. We also had Jacob deGrom. We had Scherzer. I mean, we have these teams that look on paper, like, all right, it's like, we could do something, but we just didn't have the spunk that we have with this team. Now, we were watching that game, watched the first 2 innings. It's 3-0. I said, Aiden, I don't know how this is going to turn out. Aiden's a little pissed off. He's sitting here. We're just kind of like quiet, we're like watching this. We can't believe this. Like they're going to do it to us again. Not thinking that this isn't your normal Mets. This isn't the normal Mets that we're used to that aren't going to come back and do something exciting. But still, you've been hurt so many times by this baseball team. 3-0. I don't know what's going to do. So I go outside, sanding away at my deck. I turn it on, listen to a little Howie, call the game. I do enjoy listening to it on the radio. So I'm sanding the deck, 3-0. Gets to a point, like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? It's like, all right, you know what? Let me go back inside. And then it comes. Sitting there, Aiden, I don't know what we're gonna do, but it doesn't look good. And it starts by one Tyrone Taylor. This kid has been a spark plug for this Mets team the whole year. And what he did by sparking that team, by hitting that double, says, you know what though? Here we are. Come get us. And what transpired after that could only be considered as the greatest baseball game / moment that I have seen as a Met fan in my lifetime. I'll compare it to any moment in Mets history. And not too many. But this is the greatest moment I ever witnessed. Francisco Lindor, Iglesias, Vientos, Alvarez, Marte coming in and getting that big hit. You can name your big moment. You can name it. Nimmo comes in and makes that game 8 to, what is it? At that point, I'm sorry, it was 7-6. Game is high in our brains. We're jumping around. It's 6-3. The Mets are they're ahead, they're winning. And of course, it comes. The part that we're used to as Met fans. We're up 6-3. Oh my God. All of a sudden we turn around. What's going on? All of a sudden we turn around, it's 7-6. Edwin Diaz, let's talk about that for a second. Super mad at him, made a terrible baseball play. He should be ashamed of himself. Not covering first base will go down in history as, if they did lose this game, as one of the worst Met moments in history. Now, there's a lot of bad Met moments. There's more bad Met moments than there are good Met moments. But Edwin Diaz having a mental thing of not wanting to hustle or not wanting to get the out. I don't know what was going through his head. Set off a spark. Now, at this point, we're like, shit, it's over. Pretty sure the score at that point was 7-6. Stuff happens, but stuff never happens for us as Met fans. Never. At that point, we're like, all right, I guess we just have to suck it up. Jets played a terrible game last week. We just got to suck it up. Till the moment Starling Marte gets up to bat. I mentioned Starling Marte because Starling Marte did not play the whole game. Starling Marte gets up to bat and does exactly what Starling Marte does. Right up the middle. Hustles down the line, first base. Starling Marte is at first base. Now here goes the moment that in my life, my son's life so far, and Met fans, this is not a moment where you think it to yourself, for the Mets, we don't have these moments. Up comes number 12. Up comes, if it wasn't for a guy over there in LA who he's just not human. He's a cyborg. I'm convinced they're going to come through with that they something up with him. He's robotic. Would be the MVP of the league. Comes up to bat. Looks at the pitcher. Starling Marte is on base. The moment was not too big. Francisco Lindor, in his head, is saying, I am winning this game. Get on my back and let's go. Here comes the pitch. Swings the bat. Ball is going. Now, to my surprise and to Aiden's surprise, I thought that was going to be a long pop-up. I don't know. Maybe it was just some kind of divine intervention because I don't know if you noticed, when the Mets had that big inning, they scored all those runs, and it was 6-3. And Francisco Lindor walked to the back of the dugout away from everybody, and he was talking to somebody up there. I don't know, God, whoever you think is up there. He was talking to somebody. And I don't know if it was that kind of divine intervention or whatever you want to say. Francisco Lindor comes in there and hits a home run. That home run, I could only say, I can't even get into how amazing of a feeling that was watching Francisco Lindor hit that home run, knowing where he was in the beginning of the season, knowing where the Mets were 0-5, knowing that I looked at this team in April, in the beginning of May, and said, oh my God, it's going to be another one of those seasons. All those memories and all those nightmares come rushing back to you. And then the ball goes over the wall. It's a home run. And all we have to do is go into that bottom of the ninth and strike out the side, get it out on a grounder. It doesn't matter. Just get 3 outs. At this point, Diaz is probably going to come out of the game. Diaz made a huge blunder. Diaz fucked up. It was a mental mistake, so it's all on him. You could say he would have got there first or who would have got it. That's irrelevant to the fact that he didn't budge. He told the coach, paraphrasing here, after Lindor hit that home run, he says, I want the baseball. Give me the fucking baseball. I don't know if he said it in Spanish. I don't know if he said it in English. I don't know how he said it. I don't know if he said it telepathically. But Edwin Diaz went back out. You know why? Because he felt that he owed Francisco Lindor something. He owed him grit. He owed him balls. And you know what, Met fans and baseball fans, unlike Matt Harvey back in 2015, Edwin Diaz went out there and did what he was supposed to do. He threw more pitches than he's ever thrown in 2 innings. And he said to himself, I am not going to be one of those things where we did not make the playoffs because of me. I let my team down, and I have to go out and do something about it. And that's exactly what he did, Met fans. He went out and did exactly what he was supposed to do. Watching them celebrate and watching them make the playoffs, even though it's a wild card, beating the Braves. This team right here has got us so pumped as Met fans. They do not give up. Every single person in that lineup can do something positive. So today, when you're watching Lindor, Iglesias, Nimmo, Vientos, Alonso, Winkler, Marte, and Tyrone Taylor, and Francisco Alvarez, that's the starting lineup that's starting in the playoffs. Know that every single one of those guys and everybody else over there on the bench, they are hungry. This is not a, we shot our load last night. We mean fucking business. Now, we play a Milwaukee team that is a young team. They're full of piss and vinegar. Mets current GM put that team together so he knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. But there's one person on the other side tonight that I need to stay away from. Stay away from somehow is Rhys Hoskins. Because if Rhys Hoskins comes in and rips our soul out, like he's done so many other times in different uniforms, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, going into tonight's game with a mission to fulfill. And that mission is to beat the Brewers. And then after you do it to the Brewers, go to San Diego. Because not San Diego, you'll go to LA. And then beat LA. And then whoever is waiting on the other side, know that everybody in the beginning of the season thought that we couldn't do it. And look now, Major League Baseball, look who's playing in the World Series, the New York Mets. Enjoy the game later, guys. Hashtag LFGM. Let's fucking go Mets. Enjoy the game. This is Keep Talking 365 at YouTube. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that the greatest hitter to ever live, not in the Hall of Fame, died yesterday. Pete Rose, 83 years old. Rest in peace, Charlie Hustle. Take care, guys.